Let me tell you something that's going to shock you. When a woman says, "I'm fine," she almost never means it. And if you've ever believed those two words, you've already failed the test without even knowing it. Men live in the world of logic. We hear words and assume they're the message. If a man says, "I'm fine," he usually means it, conversation over, problem solved. But women, they operate on a completely different wavelength. Their words are often a disguise for what they're really feeling. It's not deception, it's not manipulation, it's a different language. Here's the trap most men fall into. They listen with their ears instead of their instincts. A woman says, "It's nothing." The man thinks, "Okay, it's nothing," and he moves on with his life. Meanwhile, she's sitting there, boiling inside, thinking, how can he not see what's wrong? How can he not care enough to notice? This is the illusion of words. You think communication is about sentences and explanations, but in her world, communication is about emotions, tone, body language, and timing. Words are just smoke. The fire is underneath. Think about it. Have you ever asked your girl, "What's wrong?" And she says, "Nothing." You walk away relieved, but a few hours later she's cold, distant, or even angry. You wonder, what did I do? She said nothing was wrong. Here's the reality. Nothing almost always means everything is wrong, and I want you to prove you care enough to dig deeper. Men fail this test because we're wired differently. We solve problems. We want directness. If something's wrong, say it. If not, move on. But that's not how women connect. For them, the unsaid words carry more weight than the spoken ones. Silence is not silence, it's a signal. Let me give you a story. A guy I know once told me, "My girlfriend said she was fine, so I went out with the boys. When I got back, she was furious. I didn't do anything wrong." And that right there is the problem. He thought not doing anything wrong was the goal. But in her eyes, what he did wrong was not noticing that fine didn't mean fine. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Men lose in relationships not because they don't love enough, but because they don't listen enough. And I don't mean listening to the words. I mean listening to the feelings behind the words. Women rarely communicate their deepest needs directly. Instead, they leave breadcrumbs, small emotional hints, waiting to see if you care enough to follow the trail. Most men never even notice the breadcrumbs. They're too busy hearing words instead of feeling emotions. The illusion of words is the first barrier in decoding the secret language of women. Once you realize that words are often a mask, you'll stop taking them at face value. You'll start asking yourself, what is she really feeling beneath what she's saying? That's when you begin to crack the code. Here's the mistake men make. They think women communicate in plain English. Wrong. Women communicate in subtitles. And if you don't learn to read them, you'll spend your whole life frustrated, confused, and blind to what's actually being said. Let me explain. Imagine watching a foreign film without subtitles. The actors are yelling, crying, laughing. You see the emotion, but you have no clue what the dialogue means. That's how most men experience women. They hear the words, but they miss the emotion, the tone, the body language, the subtitles that actually carry the truth. When a woman says, "Do whatever you want," the subtitle reads, "I want you to prove that what you want includes me." When she says, "I'm not mad," the subtitle flashes, "I'm mad and I want you to notice why without me telling you." When she says, "We don't need to celebrate our anniversary," the subtitle screams, "If you forget this, you'll regret it for the rest of the year." Most men, they take the words literally. They miss the subtitles. And then they wonder why she's upset. They walk around like clueless viewers watching a movie in a language they don't understand. Here's the harsh truth. Women aren't being tricky. They're being emotional. Their language is rooted in feelings, not facts. Men are linear, we say what we mean. Women are emotional, they feel what they mean. The words are just a rough sketch. The emotions are the painting. Think about this. A woman's tone can flip the meaning of a sentence completely. She can say, "I love you," and it can sound warm, sarcastic, cold, or desperate, all depending on the tone. The same 3 words, but 4 entirely different messages. If you only listen to the words, you'll never know which one she actually meant. Here's an example. A buddy of mine once told me, she said she didn't want me to buy her a gift, so I didn't, and then she was upset. Of course she was upset. The words said, "Don't buy me a gift." The subtitle said, "I want you to know me well enough to ignore what I said and surprise me anyway." Sound unfair? Maybe, but here's the reality. Relationships aren't about fairness, they're about understanding. Women don't need you to be a mind reader, but they do expect you to tune in, to pick up on energy, tone, timing, and silence. And silence is the loudest subtitle of them all. When she goes quiet, it's not peace, it's a test. She's waiting to see if you notice. If you don't, you fail. More on that later. Men complain, why can't women just say what they mean? But that's like asking why the sky isn't green. It's not how they're wired. The question isn't, why don't they speak my language? The real question is, why haven't I learned theirs? Mastering emotional subtitles doesn't just make you better with women, it gives you an edge in life. Because when you can read the emotions beneath the words, you're no longer guessing. You're fluent in a language most men never even try to learn. Let me hit you with the raw truth. Women test men, and the biggest mistake you can make is thinking those tests are unfair, unnecessary, or malicious. They're not, they're instinct, and if you fail them, attraction dies fast. Here, what most men don't understand. Women rarely come out and ask, "Can I trust you? Or will you protect me? Or are you strong enough to lead me?" Instead, they test you, subtly, indirectly, because that's how they find the answers without asking the questions. Think about it like this. Life tests men every single day. The market tests your skills. The gym tests your discipline. Challenges test your resilience. And women, they test your masculinity. Not because they hate you, but because they need to know who you really are beneath the mask. Here's an example. She teases you. She pokes fun at your job, your clothes, your habits. Most men get defensive. Why would she say that? She's being mean. Wrong, she's checking your confidence. If you crumble, get angry, or sulk, you fail. If you laugh it off, stand tall and own yourself, you pass. Another example, she pulls away emotionally. Stops texting as much, seems colder than usual. Most guys panic. She's losing interest, I need to chase harder. But the reality, she's testing your stability. She wants to see if you'll beg, cling, and collapse, or if you'll remain unshaken, a man with a life and value outside of her. Here's the brutal truth. Women don't want answers, they want proof. Every test is proof. Proof of strength, proof of confidence, proof of leadership, proof that you are who you claim to be. And if you fail enough of them, she walks. Not because she hates you, but because instinct tells her you're not the man who can hold the frame. Men always say, "Why can't women just trust me?" And the answer is simple. Trust is not given, it's earned. And in her world, trust is not earned by promises, it's earned by passing tests. Let me give you a story. A guy once told me, "My girlfriend accused me of flirting with someone, even though I was. I defended myself, argued with her for hours, and now she doesn't trust me more than ever." Here's the mistake. He thought the test was about truth. It was about composure. She didn't need proof of innocence. She needed proof of strength. If he had calmly reassured her, stood firm without panic, and shifted the frame, the test would have been passed. Instead, he folded into her emotions and lost. Here's the philosophy. Life doesn't announce tests in advance. Neither do women. But if you understand the game, you stop seeing tests as attacks. You start seeing them as opportunities. Every test is a chance to demonstrate who you really are, not the words you say, but the man you are. Once you get this, you stop resenting the tests. You start passing them. And when you do, she stops questioning, because deep down she already knows you're the man she can trust, follow, and respect. Here's a truth that most men don't want to hear. The biggest reason men fail with women is not because they don't love enough, or provide enough, or even try enough. It's because they miss the signals. They're blind to the language women actually speak. Men are trained from birth to think in straight lines. Problem, right arrow, solution. Question, right arrow, answer. Cause, right arrow, effect. It's how we survive, how we build, how we conquer. But women, they're not speaking in straight lines. They're speaking in circles, colors, and feelings. And if you keep trying to apply logic to an emotional conversation, you'll always be frustrated. Here, what men miss. Women don't talk to solve problems. They talk to connect. They don't unload their emotions because they want you to fix them. They unload them because they want to know you're present enough to carry the weight with them. When a man hears, "I had a terrible day," he thinks, "Okay, let me find a solution." He starts offering advice. Maybe you should quit that job. Maybe you should talk to your boss. Maybe you should. And while he's solving, she's pulling away. Why? Because she didn't need a mechanic. She needed an anchor. She didn't want logic. She wanted empathy. This is where men get it wrong. They confuse hearing with listening. Hearing is passive, you catch the words. Listening is active, you feel the emotions beneath them. Women can tell the difference instantly. If she feels you're only hearing, she'll call you cold, distant, disconnected. If she feels you're listening, she'll call you understanding, attractive, safe. Let me tell you a story. A guy once said to me, "My wife says I don't listen, but I repeat everything she says back to her, word for word." And that's exactly the problem. He was parroting words, not responding to feelings. She didn't want to hear her sentences played back like a robot. She wanted to feel in his presence that her emotions were seen and valued. What men miss is the invisible layer, the sigh after a sentence, the hesitation before a reply, the shift in body language when a subject comes up. These are not random, they're communication. And if you ignore them, you miss the entire point of the conversation. Here's the dangerous part. When men miss these signals long enough, women stop sending them. They withdraw, they say less, they expect less. And eventually they feel unloved, not because the man didn't love her, but because he failed to translate that love into the language she actually understands. The reality is simple. Men don't lose women because they stop loving them. They lose women because they stop understanding them. The lesson: stop listening to the words alone. Start paying attention to the unspoken. That's where the real conversation is happening. That's the secret language. And once you learn it, you'll see what other men never see, and you'll have what other men always lose. Now let's talk about the decoder ring, the secret key that turns her words into meaning, her moods into maps, her silence into signals. Because let's be real, women do speak a secret language, but it's not mystical, it's psychological. And once you know the translation key, you stop guessing and start understanding. Here's rule number 1. It's fine never means it's fine. In fact, when she says it's fine, it usually means it's the opposite of fine. She's telling you the conversation isn't safe for her emotions right now, and she's waiting to see if you care enough to dig deeper. Ignore it and she'll log it as he doesn't get me. Push gently and you unlock what she's really feeling. Rule number 2, do whatever you want is not permission, it's a test. What she's actually saying is, I don't feel considered. The real answer isn't to do whatever you want, it's to slow down and include her in the decision. It's not about control, it's about connection. Rule number 3, silence is communication. When a woman goes quiet, she's not out of words, she's out of safety. Men think silence means peace, but for women, silence often means withdrawal. That's when she's pulling away, not leaning in. And if you miss it, you'll realize too late that she already packed her bags emotionally. Now here's the translation key most men never learn. Women communicate in feelings first, facts second. Men want the facts so they can solve. Women want the feelings so they can be seen. So when she says, my boss embarrassed me in front of the team, she's not asking for a strategy to deal with her boss. She's asking for this response. That must have felt humiliating. I get why you're upset. That one sentence, spoken with presence, is worth more than 100 solutions. Let me give you a personal story. A guy I knew lost a 7-year relationship not because he cheated, not because he failed financially, but because he never learned this translation. Every time his girlfriend opened up, he offered answers, not empathy. She used to tell him, I don't feel like you understand me. He thought she was exaggerating. But when she left, her explanation was simple. You were a good man, but I never felt heard. That's the brutal truth. Women leave good men every day, not because they didn't love them, but because they didn't feel understood by them. The translation key isn't about becoming someone else. It's not about pretending to be sensitive if you're not. It's about listening differently, about slowing down and asking yourself, what is she really feeling right now? And then responding to that. Once you learn this, you stop playing detective with emojis and start playing philosopher with emotions. You begin to hear the real message behind the words. And when a woman feels understood, she feels safe. And when she feels safe, she'll give you everything men chase but never catch. That's the translation key. Learn it, and you'll never be confused by the secret language again. Here's the mistake most men make. They think relationships run on logic, loyalty, or even love. Wrong. Relationships run on emotional currency. And if you don't know how to earn it, spend it, and invest it wisely, you'll always be broke in the bank of attraction. Think about it like this. Men measure value in results. How much money do I make? How big is the house? What problem did I solve? Women measure value in emotions. How does he make me feel when he walks in the room? Safe, excited, desired, or invisible? See, emotions are the currency women trade in. And just like real money, they inflate, they devalue, they can be counterfeited. But one thing's certain, without emotional deposits, the account runs dry, and when it does, so does her attraction. Here, what most men don't get. Emotional deposits don't always come from grand gestures. You don't need to buy diamonds or book vacations every weekend. Sometimes it's as simple as eye contact when she's speaking, a genuine compliment at the right moment, a playful tease that sparks laughter after a long day. Small deposits compound into trust, desire, and loyalty. Ignore them, and your account hits overdraft before you even realize it. Let me tell you a story. A guy once told me, I don't understand. I gave her everything, paid the bills, bought the gifts, stayed faithful, and she still left. What he didn't realize was that while he was making massive financial deposits, he was bankrupt emotionally. She didn't leave because of what he didn't provide. She left because of what she didn't feel. This is the harsh reality. A woman will stay with a broke man who makes her feel alive before she'll stay with a rich man who makes her feel nothing. Why? Because emotions are the currency, not cash. And here's the kicker, when you give her the right emotions, she'll multiply everything you are. That's female psychology at work. So what counts as emotional currency? Playfulness keeps attraction fresh. Presence proves she's not competing with your phone, your work, or your distractions. Strength, not the kind you show in the gym, but the kind where you stay calm when she's storming. Unpredictability, the spice that prevents boredom and keeps her investing in the relationship. Now there's a warning. Just like money, too much of one thing loses value. If you're playful all the time, she'll think you're never serious. If you're strong but never vulnerable, she'll think you're made of stone. Balance is the real wealth. At the end of the day, women don't remember the logic of your love. They remember the feeling of it. The way you turned a bad day into laughter. The way you stood tall when she was falling apart. The way you made her feel like the only woman in a crowded room. That's emotional currency, and once you learn to invest it, she'll never want to close the account. If emotional currency is the lifeblood of attraction, then tension is the electricity that keeps it alive. Without it, the spark dies. With too much of it, the relationship burns out. But the right amount, that's where passion lives. Here's the paradox. Men are taught that the goal of a relationship is peace, stability, harmony, and yes, those things matter, but only in doses. Because when peace becomes predictability, attraction dies. When harmony turns into routine, passion fades. Women don't want constant chaos, but they don't want a flatline either. They want tension, the push and pull that keeps their emotions alive. Think about your favorite movie. Would you watch it if you already knew every scene, every line, every ending? Of course not. You watch because you do know, because you want to feel suspense, surprise, uncertainty. That's the same psychology in relationships. When she knows exactly how you'll react to every situation, you become boring, predictable, safe but lifeless. Let me hit you with the truth. Women don't fall in love with comfort. They fall in love with intensity. The late-night arguments that turn into laughter, the teasing that turns into flirting, the silence that turns into passion. It's the contrast that keeps her hooked. Here, what most men miss, tension isn't conflict, it's polarity. It's the dance between masculine and feminine energy. It's when you hold your ground instead of folding. It's when you tease instead of flatter. It's when you don't rush to fill every silence, but let the silence charge the air between you. I remember a guy who lost his girlfriend and couldn't figure out why. He did everything right, never argued, always agreed, always available. He thought that made him the perfect boyfriend, but what he didn't realize was this: perfect is boring. He removed every ounce of tension, and with it, he removed her desire. She didn't leave because he was bad to her. She left because he stopped making her feel. Here's the secret: tension makes emotions sharper. Without it, love becomes friendship. With it, love becomes obsession. Women are wired for emotional stimulation. It's what makes them invest, what makes them commit, what makes them stay. But let's clear one thing up. Tension isn't about being toxic. It's not about playing cruel games or creating unnecessary drama. It's about creating challenge, about reminding her that you're not fully conquered, not fully predictable, not fully controlled. Because once she thinks she's solved you, the game is over. So how do you master tension? Hold your ground when tested, respectfully, calmly, but firmly. Tease her instead of drowning her in compliments. Stay mysterious, don't broadcast every detail of your life. Live your own life fully, so she's always wondering what's next. The truth is this: attraction lives in the unknown, in the gaps, in the electricity between certainty and surprise. Women don't want to own the whole map, they want to explore the territory. That's the power of tension. Learn it, and she'll never stop chasing the spark. Every man thinks women fall for logic, that if he can just explain his worth, his job, his house, his goals, she'll choose him. But here's the truth: women don't fall in love with logic, they fall in love with feelings. And those feelings are unlocked by emotional triggers. Think of emotional triggers as hidden buttons in the human brain. Press them, and you create desire, trust, and even obsession. Ignore them, and no matter how good you look on paper, she won't feel that spark. Let me give you an example. A woman might say she wants a nice guy, but when she meets him, the guy who gives her everything she asks for, who never challenges her, who puts her on a pedestal, she feels nothing. Why? Because he never triggered her emotions. He gave her comfort, but not excitement. He gave her stability, but not mystery. And deep down, she craves both. So what are these emotional triggers? Let's break them down. 1. The protector instinct. One of the strongest triggers for women is safety. Not just physical safety, but emotional safety. When she feels like you can handle life, problems, pressure, even her moods, she relaxes. Her guard drops. That's when attraction deepens. 2. The challenge trigger. Women are drawn to men they can't fully figure out. If you're too available, too predictable, she feels no spark. But when you challenge her, by holding your boundaries, teasing her, or refusing to fold under pressure, you awaken the part of her brain wired for pursuit. 3. The status trigger. This isn't about money or flashy cars, it's about presence. A man with quiet confidence who walks into a room and owns his space triggers her instinct to see him as high value. Status isn't what you wear, it's how you carry yourself. 4. The emotional roller coaster. It sounds strange, but women are addicted to emotional highs and lows. The same way people binge Netflix or scroll TikTok, they crave emotional variety. When you can make her laugh, then make her curious, then surprise her, you keep her hooked. That unpredictability is irresistible. Now here's the kicker. Most men only trigger one side of the equation. The bad boy triggers excitement but not safety. The nice guy triggers safety but not excitement. The alpha, he knows how to balance both. He creates security while keeping the fire alive. Remember this, a woman's love language isn't words, it's feelings. She doesn't remember what you said, she remembers how you made her feel. If you can master the art of triggering emotions, playfulness, excitement, security, curiosity, you stop being another man in her life, we become unforgettable. So the question isn't, what do women want? That's the wrong game. The real question is, what do women feel when they're around me? Because once you learn to press the right emotional buttons, she won't just want you, she'll need you. Silence, men see it as nothing, women use it as everything. When a man is silent, it usually means he's relaxed, thinking, or maybe just zoning out. But when a woman goes silent, that silence is a message and most men miss it completely. They shrug and think, she said nothing, so there's nothing to worry about. Wrong, her silence is the loudest thing in the room. Here's the truth, silence in women is never empty, it's filled with meaning. The problem is, men listen for words instead of feelings, and when you miss the silence, you miss her. Let's break it down. 1. The silence of hurt. This is the silence after you've said or done something that cut her, even if you didn't realize it. She won't always lash out or explain. Instead, she retreats. She goes quiet, not because she has nothing to say, but because she wants to see if you notice. If you're tuned in, you'll catch the shift in energy. If you're blind, you'll think everything is fine until it's too late. 2. The silence of testing. Sometimes silence is a test. She wants to know, will you lean in or back away? Will you ignore her stillness, or will you step up and ask what's really going on? For women, silence isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about gauging your emotional awareness. Fail the test and she labels you as disconnected. Pass it and she sees you as a man who gets her. 3. The silence of disconnection. This one is deadly. It's when she's emotionally checked out. She no longer argues, no longer explains, no longer reacts. She's silent because she's already left in her heart, even if she's still there physically. By the time most men notice this silence, it's already over. Now here's the paradox. Women don't want you to solve their silence with logic. They don't want a lecture or a flowchart or a step-by-step plan. They want presence. They want you to feel the silence, acknowledge it, and draw them out, not with answers, but with care. Think of it like music. The notes matter, but the pauses between them, that's where the emotion is. The silence makes the sound more powerful. Women speak the same way. Their silence is the pause that demands you lean in. So what's the alpha response? It's not panic, it's not ignoring her, it's awareness. Look at her body language, feel the energy shift, then calmly acknowledge it. I can tell something's on your mind, talk to me. Not as a demand, but as an invitation. That's how you turn silence into connection. Here's the ultimate truth. Women's silence isn't a void, it's a signal. Learn to decode it, and you unlock a part of the secret language most men never even notice. Ignore it, and you'll always be left wondering what went wrong. We've uncovered the secret language women speak, the illusions, the silence, the hidden meanings, the emotional triggers. But now we arrive at the final key, the truth that separates ordinary men from the rare few women never forget. It's this: real listening has nothing to do with ears. Any man can hear words, but a true alpha listens with his presence. He listens with his eyes, with his intuition, with his patience. He listens to what isn't being said, the hesitation in her voice, the shift in her body language, the energy in the room. Because here's the reality. Women don't fall in love with what you give them. They fall in love with how you see them. When she feels invisible, the relationship withers. But when she feels truly seen, without judgment, without rushing, without distraction, that's when she opens fully. That's when her loyalty, her love, her passion become unstoppable. Think about this: most men interrupt women, not always with words, but with impatience, with dismissiveness, with logic. She's talking, but he's already thinking about the solution, about work, about anything else. That's not listening. That's waiting for your turn to speak. The final key is slowing down, paying attention, giving her the rare gift of presence in a world that's constantly distracted. When you do that, you're not just hearing her, you're making her feel valued, and that's the deepest love language of all. Let's get practical. When she talks, put your phone down. Nothing kills connection faster than divided attention. When she's silent, don't ignore it, lean into it. Sometimes listening means holding space, not filling it with words. When she says something confusing, don't dismiss it. Ask questions. Show curiosity. Curiosity is respect in action. This is the essence of being an alpha, not dominance, not arrogance, but awareness. The man who truly understands a woman is rare, not because it's impossible, but because so few men are willing to tune in deeply enough to decode her world. And here's the beauty. Once you learn this final key, you stop fearing women. You stop saying they're complicated as an excuse. You realize they're not complicated, they're expressive. They've always been speaking, you just weren't listening in the right way. The truth is this: women don't want perfect men, they don't even want mind readers. They want men who are present enough to feel them, strong enough to hold space for them, and wise enough to listen beyond words.